Hi, good morning everyone. Let's get started with our next topic, which is logging into the SAP R3 system. Okay, so for logging into the SAP R3 system, we use a client tool which is called SAP GUI, that is SAP GUI. So this is what the SAP GUI is, and you can see the current version for SAP GUI is 730. Okay, so you can download this from SAP Marketplace, and this is a tool using which you can connect to SAP system. Here you can see that there are favorites here, there are shortcuts, there are connections here, and in this case you can see that I have these many systems in which I can connect to. And in case if I need to create a new system, say for example I don't have any systems and I have newly installed SAP GUI, I'll just click on new and it will show me how I can create a connection to an SAP system. Okay, so here I will create an entry for an SAP system. Click on next, and this is a place where we specify the information about the SAP system. So first thing is the connection type. So it's a custom connection. We can use a group connection also, but for now let's go with the custom connection. Second thing is the description. Okay, so the description could be anything what you can remember. It could be, say for example, ECC system for my first project. Okay, so this is the name of the system that I have. So this is the description. It doesn't matter what description name you have. Okay, now application server. This is where you need to give the fully qualified domain name, and in case if your DNS is not good enough or it's not working properly, or if you're not confident about DNS, use IP address. Okay, so I will use the IP address in my case, and I will use the IP address to connect to the SAP system. Okay, so this is the application server. So this is the server to which we will be connecting and doing the work in SAP. Okay, instance number is, it's like when you install SAP, you can create multiple instances in one system. Okay, so you can have instance numbers like 000102 depending on what you have installed and in which particular installation instance number you have given. Okay, and next is the system ID. This is extremely important. This means SID, that is system ID, and this uniquely identifies an SAP system in the landscape. Okay, so we will see what is a landscape, but for now just assume that this is a single entity which has to be unique in your environment. You cannot have multiple system IDs. The reason is that SAP uses these to transfer the things, to do the interconnection, to integrate things, to interface with different systems. So just make sure that when it is interfacing with some other system, it cannot have the same name. Okay, so the uniqueness has to be maintained. So let's say the system ID that I have in my environment is say HE6. Okay, router string. So this depends on if you have an SAP router in your environment and you use SAP router to connect to the SAP system. So if there is no in between router is present, we can just ignore this particular tab and click on next. So take note of the things which we need to specify here. We need to specify the description using which we should be able to identify where we are connecting. The reason is that there could be hundreds of SAP systems in your environment, and if you cannot make out from the description, it will be difficult to get into the right system and perform your work. Okay, second term is the application server. So this is the actual server in which you logs in. System number is the number in which SAP installation was performed for this particular system ID. And system ID, as we said, is the unique entity within the SAP landscape. Okay, so we will click on next, and here you can see that SNC configuration. So if you have an encrypted communication between your PC and SAP application server, you can use SNC. Okay, you need to specify the SNC string which you want to use to connect to the SAP system. So in my case, it's a direct communication with no encryption using SNC. So I will just click on next. Okay, language, you can select the language. Okay, then I will just click on finish. Okay, so on finishing, what you will see that there will be an entry created here. Okay, so this entry, using this entry, you can see that this is the entry which is created here. Using this entry, I will be connecting to the SAP system. So if I double click on this, it will take me to the logon screen. So this screen is called the logon screen for an SAP system. So this is the first screen when you try to log into the SAP system. Okay, on this screen, you can see that this is where you change the password. After you log in, this is your client. We will see that what is a client in an SAP system. Okay, and this is the username and password using which you will be connecting to the SAP system. And the logon language, you need to specify which language you want to use to connect to an SAP system. So let's try to log in with this username, which is SAP star, and this user has all the privileges in an SAP system. Normally you don't log in with this user, you use the user ID which is created for you specifically, and each individual user should have their own ID to perform the work in an SAP system. Okay, so this is how we connect and log into the SAP system, and you can see that the password has to be correct. So in case if you have some incorrect password, it will not take you to the SAP system. It will cancel your login into the SAP system. Okay, so we will see that how we can connect to the SAP system. Say for example, I have my user ID and password and I want to connect to an SAP system. I can use my username and password to connect. So this is my system to which I am already connected with my username and password. And in case if you forget your username and password, you need to approach your system administrator to reset your ID and password. Okay, so once this is the screen that you will be getting into once you specify your correct username and password. So this is the first screen that you get in when you specify your correct username and password. Okay, so that is pretty much I wanted to cover in this particular topic. Thank you for joining me and have a nice day. Bye bye.